I thought I knew Marcus. I thought our love was real. But 3 nights before my wedding, I found his phone unlocked. The photos changed everything. Hundreds of images of me, taken months before we'd supposedly met. That discovery pulled me into a world of ancient rituals and blood sacrifices. Marcus knew. He'd chosen me, studied me, prepared me. His people didn't need just a bride. They needed a sacrifice. And I was selected long before I learned his name. My name is Grace. I'm 24, living in a small village deep in the forest, maybe 300 people. Our village is isolated, connected to the main road by a dirt path that becomes impassable during heavy rains. Thick bush surrounds us. Most outsiders don't know we exist. My father James is a carpenter known across 3 villages. My mother Ruth prepares the best soup for every gathering. They raised me to be respectful, to observe, to notice what others miss. My grandmother, Mama Rose, used to say I had the gift of sight, that I could see what was hidden. I never understood until I discovered the truth about Marcus. 6 months ago during the festival, Marcus arrived. He came on a Tuesday, a stranger who decided to stay. Tall, strong build, with eyes that held something ancient. He said he came from a village 2 days away, a place called Riverside that nobody'd heard of. Within a week, everyone knew his name. He fit in immediately, helped Elder Peter repair his roof, carried water for Mama Grace when her joints pained her, sat with old men sharing palm wine, played football with young boys. The elders trusted him. Men respected him. Women whispered about how he'd make a good husband. But what caught my attention was how he looked at me. Not with crude interest, but with recognition, like he'd been waiting. Most men had tried courting me. Thomas brought plantains every market day for 3 months. David wrote clumsy letters. I'd turn them all down. I wasn't settling. I wanted something real. Then one evening, Marcus approached me. He simply fell into step beside me and said, "Grace, daughter of James and Ruth, your grandmother was extraordinary. I've heard stories about her gifts even in distant villages." I stopped walking. Mama Rose died 3 years ago, before Marcus supposedly arrived. You knew my grandmother? Not personally. But her reputation traveled far. They say she could read signs in nature, knew things before they happened. They say you inherited those gifts. That led to more conversations. Marcus began appearing everywhere, at the stream, at gatherings, at the market. Unlike other suitors, he didn't rush, asked thoughtful questions, listened when I talked about wanting to become a teacher. 3 months after arriving, he approached my father with palm wine and cola, asking permission to court me. My father agreed. The courtship was traditional, respectful. He visited during appropriate hours. We sat outside while my parents remained nearby. Somewhere during those months, I fell in love. When Marcus came with family representatives, bringing the bride price, I agreed immediately. The entire village celebrated. The wedding was set for the next full moon. Everything was perfect. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click the subscribe button so you never miss our upcoming videos. But 3 weeks before the wedding, nightmares started. At first vague, shadows and the sensation of being watched. Then vivid, disturbing. I would see myself in a forest clearing I didn't recognize, surrounded by figures wearing masks made from bark and bone. Marcus stood among them, but different, older, harder, his eyes empty. Behind them loomed an enormous tree with a split trunk glowing from within, pulsing like a heartbeat. Every night, just before I woke gasping, I heard my grandmother's voice. "Child, run. They're going to consume you. They've been hungry for so long." I would wake at the same hour every night, during deepest darkness, my wrapper soaked with sweat. Marcus noticed during a visit and asked if I was well. "Just wedding nerves," I lied. He accepted my explanation, but I caught him staring afterward with an expression I couldn't read, something between concern and guilt. 1 week before the wedding, my mother called me into her room. She handed me a necklace I'd never seen, a brass chain with a small compass pendant, carved with strange symbols. "This was your grandmother's. Mama Rose gave it to me before she died and made me promise to give it to you before your wedding. She said it would help you find your way when lost. She said it would protect you from those who mean harm." The pendant felt strangely heavy. That night, the nightmare changed. I was in the clearing again, but this time I could hear the chanting. The words weren't our language, older, primal, rising from the earth itself. Marcus stood at the center, holding a carved wooden figure that looked exactly like me. He lifted it toward the glowing tree, and I felt something pulling at my chest, like invisible hands reaching inside to tear out my soul. The chanting grew louder. The tree's glow intensified. The wooden figure in Marcus's hands began to burn, and I felt my body growing cold, my strength draining. I woke screaming. My mother rushed in, and this time I told her everything. I expected her to say I was stressed, overthinking. Instead, her face went pale. She sat beside me and took my hands. "Your grandmother knew. She warned me before she died that they might come for you. She said our bloodline carries something special, something old families like his need to survive. She said if a stranger ever came asking about you, claiming to have heard of our family from distant places, I should watch him closely." "Mama, what are you talking about? Who are they?" "I don't know everything. Mama Rose never told me all of it. She said the less I knew, the safer I'd be. But she said some families, some old bloodlines, survive by taking from others, by consuming their essence, their life force. They hide in plain sight, but when they need to renew themselves." She touched the compass pendant at my throat. "She said this would help you see the truth." Deep in my gut, I knew she was telling the truth. The next day, Marcus came to visit. We sat outside as usual. We talked about final preparations. Everything felt normal. Then Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and set it face down on the stool between us. "Just a message from a cousin. They're excited about the wedding." Minutes later, he excused himself, and I did something I'd never done. I picked up his phone. The screen was unlocked. I told myself I'd just glance, make sure there was nothing to worry about. What I saw made my hands tremble. His lock screen was a photo of me, but not from our courtship. It was from months ago, before Marcus supposedly arrived. I was sitting by the river, feet in the water, reading under my favorite tree, wearing the yellow wrapper I'd torn and thrown away last season, 2 full months before Marcus came. I was alone in that photo. I had no idea anyone was watching me. My heart hammering, I opened his gallery. What I found made me understand everything had been a lie. Hundreds of photos of me, maybe thousands, some taken from far away, grainy and zoomed like he'd been hiding in the forest. Others close and clear, me hanging clothes, me fetching water, me reading, me sleeping with my window open. The photos went back almost a year, months before he'd supposedly arrived. All this time, I thought we'd found each other by chance. But he'd been watching me, studying me, stalking me. Then I saw something that made everything click into place. Hidden in a folder labeled Family Records were old photographs, yellowed with age, showing groups of people before that same glowing tree from my nightmares. In each photo, a young woman at the center, different women across different decades, wearing white, surrounded by masked figures. In the corner of each photo were dates, different years, following a pattern, a cycle. The most recent was dated last year. And the woman at the center, I recognized her. Sarah, Thomas's older sister. She'd married last year to a stranger who'd come during festival season. They'd moved away after the wedding. But I remembered the whispers, how Sarah's mother said she stopped sending messages, How when family visited, they found her alive but hollow, working mechanically, speaking in flat tones, her eyes empty. People said depression, adjustment to marriage. But looking at this photo, at the terror in her eyes, I knew the truth. They'd used her, consumed her. She was just a shell now. And I was next. I heard footsteps. Marcus was returning. What should I do? Confront him? Run? Pretend I hadn't seen anything? I quickly took photos of his screen with my phone, capturing evidence. Then I set his phone back and tried to control my breathing. Marcus sat down and looked at me. Grace? You look pale. Are you unwell? I'm fine, just felt dizzy. The heat, probably. He studied my face, and I had the terrifying sense that he knew. But he smiled gently. You should rest. Big day coming. After he left, I ran to my mother and showed her the photos. She stared, hand covering her mouth, tears streaming. Oh God, child, Mama Rose was right. About everything. Mama, what is he? What are they? They're called the Hollow Ones. At least that's what Mama Rose called them. They're families. Bloodlines that made a bargain long ago with something old and dark. They were given long life, prosperity, power. But the price is that every generation, they have to feed it. They have to offer a young woman, someone pure and strong. They consume her essence to renew themselves. Without it, they fade and die. And Marcus? He's one of them? His whole family, probably. They move around, find isolated communities, identify suitable women, court them, marry them. And then during the wedding night ceremony, she couldn't finish. Does he know what they're planning? My mother looked at me with sadness. Child, he's the one who chose you. Everything, the courtship, the kindness, the love, it's all been to make you willing, to make you trust him. They need willing brides. The ritual doesn't work if the woman is taken by force. She has to walk into it believing it's real love. The betrayal hit me hard. Every conversation, every touch, every promise, all manipulation. All part of preparing me to be consumed. We have to leave. Right now. But my mother shook her head. You can't run. Mama Rose tried. They found her every time. They have ways of tracking bloodlines. The only way she survived was by making a bargain. She promised them they could have her daughter or granddaughter when the time came. She thought she'd have time to find a solution. But she died before she could. So I just accept this? Walk into that ceremony and let them consume me? No, we fight, but smart. Mama Rose left journals, research, everything she learned about the Hollow Ones. She was looking for a way to break their power. It's all hidden in her old trunk. We have 3 weeks. That night, we pulled out Mama Rose's trunk. Inside were decades of journals, clippings, maps, notes. She'd been researching the Hollow Ones for 50 years, tracking their movements, documenting their patterns. At the bottom, we found what we needed. A counter-ceremony that could break their hold, but only if performed at the exact moment they tried to complete their sacrifice. Dangerous? Maybe impossible. But my only chance. What would you do if you discovered the person you loved was preparing you for a ritual sacrifice? Would you run? Would you fight? Would you go through with the wedding to stop them? Let us know in the comments. For 3 weeks, I pretended everything was normal, went to preparations, smiled at gatherings, sat with Marcus and talked about our future, knowing he planned to steal my soul. Hardest acting I'd ever done. Every time he touched my hand, I wanted to recoil. Every time he said he loved me, I wanted to scream. But I couldn't. If he suspected I knew, they'd move faster. I needed them to believe I was still the willing, trusting bride they'd groomed. My mother and I studied Mama Rose's research every night. We learned the Hollow Ones' power came from an ancient tree in their territory. The same tree from my nightmares. A soul tree, feeding on the essence of sacrificed women. Every generation, They had to complete the feeding, or their bloodline would wither. But Mama Rose discovered something crucial. The tree's power could be reversed. If someone offered themselves willingly, truly willingly with full knowledge, but then broke the offering at the exact moment of transfer, the tree would consume the hollow ones instead. It would take back all the life it had given them. The catch: perfect timing and unshakable will. One moment of doubt, 1 second of hesitation, and the ritual would complete normally. I would be consumed. 2 days before the wedding, Marcus's family arrived. Maybe 20 of them, all from this mysterious village. Polite, charming, warm. They brought gifts, praised my parents' compound. They looked like any family coming for a wedding. But I could see it now. How they all watched me with calculating gazes. How they smiled too perfectly. How they moved with uncanny synchronization. And I noticed something else. They all wore pendants. Small wooden carvings like twisted tree roots, protection charms, connected to the soul tree. The night before the wedding, during final preparations, Marcus's father gave a speech. He spoke about family, tradition, how blessed they were to welcome me. As he spoke, I saw him glance at Marcus with approval, like a hunter praising his son for tracking prey. After the gathering, Marcus asked to speak privately. We walked to the compound edge near the forest, and he took my hands. Tomorrow will be perfect. I promise you, Grace, you'll never regret saying yes. This is the beginning of something eternal. I looked into his eyes and saw genuine emotion. That was the cruelest part. I think he'd actually fallen in love with me. But his love was secondary to his family's survival. He would sacrifice me because he had to. And he'd convinced himself this was an honor. Marcus, what happens after the ceremony? Where do we go? To the family land. There's a traditional ceremony at night, an old ritual to bind us forever. It's been in my family for generations. Will I still be me afterward? Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe fear that I suspected. But he recovered. Of course. You'll be even more yourself. You'll be complete. He was lying. And he knew I knew. But we both pretended. That night, I didn't sleep. My mother and I went over the counter ritual one final time. I had to memorize it perfectly. The words, the gestures, the exact moment to break the offering. One mistake would cost me everything. Are you sure about this? My mother asked, gripping my hands. Child, we can still run. They found Grandma Rose. They'll find me too. And then another girl in the next generation. This cycle has to end, Mama. I have to end it. She pulled me into her arms. Your grandmother would be so proud. I'm so proud. You're braver than any woman should have to be. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful. I put on my white wrapper and blouse, simple pieces my mother had sewn. I wore Mama Rose's compass pendant beneath, hidden against my skin. And I prepared to walk into a trap with my eyes open. The ceremony was held at the village square. Marcus stood waiting, his family on one side. My family and neighbors filled the other side, unaware of what was happening. They thought they were celebrating a marriage. They had no idea they were witnessing the first stage of a ritual sacrifice. I walked toward Marcus, and with each step, I felt the weight of what I was about to do. The elder spoke about love and commitment. Marcus said his vows with genuine emotion. When it was my turn, I said mine too, meaning every word even though I knew our marriage would last only hours. I accept, I said. And I did accept him, fully, willingly, with complete knowledge. Because that was what the counter ritual required. I had to mean it. I had to offer myself truly, or it wouldn't work. We performed the wine-sharing ceremony. The village celebrated. We danced, shared food. I smiled until my face hurt. Marcus's family watched with barely contained anticipation. They were celebrating not just a wedding, but a successful hunt. As darkness settled, Marcus leaned close. It's time. The elders are waiting. We need to complete the binding ceremony. This was it. Let me say goodbye to my parents first. I found my mother. We embraced and she whispered, "Remember everything Mama Rose taught you. Be strong. Break the offering at the exact right moment. Not too soon, not too late. I love you." "I love you too, Mama." Then I got into Marcus's vehicle, and we drove away from the village, deep into the bush. We traveled for an hour, the road giving way to rough paths, then barely visible trails through dense forest. Finally, we arrived at a clearing I recognized from my nightmares. The soul tree stood at the center, massive and ancient, its trunk split open and glowing with unnatural light. Maybe 20 masked figures surrounded it, Marcus's entire family, revealed for what they were. Marcus turned to me. "Grace, I need you to understand. What's about to happen? It's not cruelty, it's necessity. My family, my people, we've lived generations longer than normal humans. We've accumulated knowledge, wisdom, power. But to continue, we need renewal. We need the essence of someone pure, someone strong, someone like you. So you did know. All along you knew you were going to kill me. Not kill, transform. Your body will survive, but your essence, your spirit, that will become part of something greater. You'll nourish my family for another generation. You'll live on through us. That's not living. That's being consumed. That's having everything that makes me stolen, so your family can exist beyond their natural span. I know you're afraid, but I do love you, Grace. Everything I felt was real. I love my family more. I love them enough to do what's necessary." I pulled my hand away. "Then let's finish this." The masked figures parted. As we approached the tree, I could feel it pulling at me, hungry. Marcus's father stepped forward, holding a calabash filled with something dark. "Drink this. It will make the transfer easier." "No. Grandma Rose's research said the offering has to be fully conscious. If you want me willing, I stay awake." The father's eyes narrowed behind his mask, but he nodded. "Very well. Your grandmother was formidable too. She almost escaped." She did escape. She lived her full life. She died of old age, surrounded by people who loved her. Only because she promised us you. She bought her freedom with your future. Then maybe it's time I bought everyone's future with my choice. The ritual began. The masked figures formed a circle, chanting in that ancient language. Marcus took my hand and led me before the split trunk. The light pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, pulling at something deep inside my chest. Marcus's father approached with a ceremonial blade and made a small cut on my palm, then Marcus's. He pressed our bleeding hands together. With this blood bond, we joined two as one. With this offering freely given, we renew what was promised. Speak the words, child. Accept your role. This was the moment. I had to offer myself completely, willingly. Only then could I break it at the perfect moment and reverse the flow. I took a deep breath and spoke the words every bride before me had spoken. I offer myself freely. I give my essence willingly. I accept transformation into something greater. The tree's glow intensified. The chanting grew louder, and I felt it begin, the pull becoming irresistible, like hooks sinking into my soul, drawing out everything that made me Grace. My memories, my personality, my dreams, my fears, my love, all being pulled toward the tree, toward the hungry void that sustained these people. Marcus gripped my hand tighter. I saw tears in his eyes even as he participated in my destruction. The transfer was maybe halfway complete when I felt it, the exact moment Mama Rose had described. When the offering was accepted but not yet consumed, the split second where the flow could be reversed. Now. I ripped my hand from Marcus's grip, grabbed the compass pendant from beneath my wrapper, and drove it into the tree's glowing wound. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The light that had been pulling from me suddenly reversed. Instead of flowing into the tree, it began flowing out, and it was hungry. The tree had been fed on stolen essence for generations, and now all that accumulated power was being released. The masked figures screamed. The tree's roots burst from the ground, wrapping around them like serpents. I watched as life drained from them, quickly, like flames being extinguished. Their bodies aged rapidly, decades of borrowed time collapsing in seconds. Within moments, they were nothing but dust and empty masks. Marcus fell to his knees, staring at his hands as they withered. He looked up at me one final time. "You knew. All along you knew. Only for the last 3 weeks. But yes, I knew. And I chose to walk into your trap anyway because someone had to end this. Someone had to stop your family from consuming another woman in the next generation. I did love you. I know you won't believe me, but I did. I know. That's what makes this so sad. You loved me enough to die for me now. But you didn't love me enough to refuse to kill me earlier, and that tells me everything about what your love was worth." He dissolved into dust, his final expression one of regret. The tree's light faded. The glowing wound sealed itself. And suddenly it was just a normal tree, ancient and massive, but no longer hungry, no longer magical. Just wood and bark and leaves. I stood alone in that clearing, surrounded by piles of dust and empty masks, and I finally let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. The fear, the betrayal, the grief for what could have been if Marcus had been who I thought he was. Then I pulled out my phone and called my mother. "It's done. It's over. They're gone. All of them." She arrived with my father hours later, and we burned every mask, scattered every pile of dust, and drove back to our village as the sun rose on a new day. The first day in generations where no woman would be marked for sacrifice by the Hollow Ones. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please share it. Remember to subscribe for more stories. We'll see you in the next one.